Welcome to Confessions of a Parent Coach. I'm Coach, mother of four, and potty talker, Ann-Kaplan. This is the podcast where I confess something from my own parenting and coaching life, teach a lesson around it, and answer your questions. Even we parenting experts are far from perfect, and the real magic happens when we get down with all that imperfection. We get into the gritty side of parenting here, so earbud up and dive in.
Welcome into another episode of the podcast, everybody. Today's episode is going to be short and sweet. I am going to tell you a little bit more about how you can get help with your Enneagram type. You might have listened to an episode I did weeks and weeks and weeks ago about the different Enneagram types. I think that was actually, months ago. And then I did a podcast episode a few weeks ago that was about the Enneagram instincts. And today I'm officially letting everybody know that if you want to discover what your Enneagram type is, if you want to learn more about your Enneagram type, if you want to get deeper into what your Enneagram instinct stacking is, all of those things are available to you now from me because I am officially a certified Enneagram practitioner. And so I can do all of those wonderful things for you. So that's a really fun service that I'm adding to my repertoire as a coach. Obviously, it's also a tool that I'm weaving into the coaching that I'm doing with my clients as well. But I know there's a lot of people out there who are curious about the Enneagram, want to understand like not only who they are and what their type is, but what's the utility of that? Like, what do we actually do with that information? And so I've decided to kind of just offer that as sort of an a la carte service that you can get from me. And maybe it will lead to us working together further than that. Maybe it won't. Maybe it's just kind of something you want to give. Or I remember a long, long time ago, I had some friends who really wanted to learn about the Enneagram, and I wasn't qualified to do this kinds of services for people yet. And so all I was good at was just being obsessed with it and talking about it constantly. And so that at least it got people curious about it, but then I couldn't really help them figure it out. So I gave a couple of friends as like birthday gifts. I gifted them like a one-off Enneagram session with my person. And that was a really cool gift, actually. A lot of people really appreciated that. So anyway, that is something that's available to you. So I want to kind of talk about like, why would we want to know what our type is? Just a refresher really quickly on what the Enneagram is in general. And then briefly give you some information on what it would look like to actually have one of those sessions with me. But of course, I have to start us off with a confession, like I always do. So my confession for you this week is just really about my own first entry into understanding the Enneagram. And I never heard of it before at all. I started working with a therapist about 13-ish years ago. And that was one of the first things that she suggested I do was just to look into it. She sent me a link to like an online test and a website that had like information about all the 9 types and everything. And I took the test, immediately, learned what my type was and started reading about it. And my confession, quote unquote, is just how much I felt like I had been, sort of like punched in the gut by the universe, not in a bad way, but it was just one of those moments where I was like, oh my God, I just knew in that moment, like understanding this thing and learning about it was going to be a game changer for me. Like I just had never understood myself or felt so understood in my life. It wasn't just, both of those things to me are the gift of the Enneagram. One is that you feel like you make sense. You feel that kind of like seen and understood energy of, oh, like the way that I work is so sensical and it makes so much sense that I'm not the only one who works this way. and that there's this whole like kind of universe or lens or paradigm or whatever you want to call it that understands me implicitly and super deeply. That is just such a beautiful, beautiful feeling. Um, but then it also helped me understand myself. So it's kind of like feeling understood and understanding at the same time. And that's how I felt. And I immediately became like a total Ennea nerd. And I was like, okay, Mike, you've got to figure this out. Like, we need to know what your type is. And both of us were just like blown away. And since then, the Enneagram has become just a massive tool in making our marriage work, me understanding like what direction to go in with my own personal work, um, having grace and comprehension and acceptance for why certain things are really hard for me, really helping me lean into like my values and who I am and own that in a way that that's like unapologetic, while at the still having the humility to understand I need to keep working on myself. But just really, and I would say especially in the last couple of years as I've gotten into like the spiritual side of the Enneagram, I've added to all of those things. Really just valuing myself and like recognizing myself as pretty like magical and having a lot of gifts and being really sort of excited about who I am and what I have to offer in ways that I probably never even thought I could before. So I mean, as you're listening to me talk about this, hopefully you, first of all, understand why I love it so much. But second of all, want to get some of that goodness for yourself, because I believe that everybody needs, we all need help and work, in the world, but also we all, deserve to really see like, who we are and who we were meant to be and how we, why we're here and what we have to offer and all that stuff. Um, so if you're new to the Enneagram or you've never heard of it before, I'm not going to go into all the 9 types and stuff like that. You can totally go back and listen to a previous episode for that. And also you can learn about it in so many different ways. But I'll just say that, the Enneagram really represents like 9 ways of seeing the world, understanding the world, interacting with the world. And there are 9 ways that lead toward your personality development and the sort of creation of and calcification of the ego. And what I love about the Enneagram, or one of the things I suppose that I love about the Enneagram, is really the main principle behind it is about integrating all of ourselves. It's not about saying, oh, these are the things that are bad about you. These are your weaknesses and you need to get rid of them, or these are the things you do that are bad, or these are the bad parts of you and let's get rid of that. No. It's really about understanding that all of us is good. All of us is beautiful and magical. And the more that we understand ourselves and the more that we integrate those things and the more that we follow sort of the roadmap that is sort of laid out for each of the 9 types, the more we integrate all of ourselves together into this like beautiful whole person and embody those gifts and share those gifts and be sort of like the most sort of impactful and shining light that we can be in the world. So it's really about integration more than anything. It's not about getting rid of discrete parts of ourselves or fixing the things that are broken or any of those things. And so it's this holistic way of growing and learning and changing and understanding ourselves in the world. So I hope that's really interesting to you. And if you've ever wanted to understand what your type is, or maybe your type, but you don't understand what that really means, or your type and you understand what it means, but you don't really know what to do with it. Like, how is that, supposed to make a difference in your life? Like, what do I do with this tool? Like, sometimes people find out their Enneagram type and it's like, okay, cool. You just bought like a hammer, but if you don't know what to do with a hammer, you're just holding a hammer. You're not really using it. You're not using that tool. So if that is you, or if you just want to go deeper with the Enneagram, reach out to me and we can set up a Enneagram session for you and really take all of this stuff deeper. It's lovely to see, how people take this tool and transform their lives with it. And that's not even to say anything about how useful it is in parenting, about how wonderful it is when we can start to understand our children's types. All of these things just unlock so much potential for human connection and growth and achievement and efficacy. So I hope that's really intriguing for you. I hope that I've really wet your whistle to understand more about yourself and what the Enneagram has to offer. And if so, set up that free session, or sorry, set up that Enneagram session with me, which is not free. I'll be completely transparent about that. And let's dig in deeper. And before you set that session up, obviously send me an email, talk to me, get yourself to a place where you feel like you're ready for that. But it's official. I'm putting my shingle out. Doors are open for Enneagram work officially starting now. So I hope I'll see you soon, and I will talk to you again next week, everybody. Bye.
The episode is over, but there's more waiting for you. You can grab my free workbook, Getting Kids to Listen the First Time, that walks you through the fundamental principles I teach all of my clients and applies them to this very universal parenting challenge. So if you're sick of repeating yourself all day long or just want to learn more about my style, you'll definitely want to go to bit.ly/kidswholisten. And if you're ready to work with me, let's meet. Set up a free call at bit.ly/Kaplan call, and let's create an action plan that gets you exactly where you want to go. And of course, links to all this goodness are in the show notes. Thanks for joining, and I'll see you next time.